We're here in the beautiful Malta, and we meet interesting people like Michael Nave from, he's famous for crypto Twitter, of course, and his podcast Evolvement. So, how are you doing?
Good man, how are you?
Doing fine. Enjoying the sun?
I'm loving it, dude. It's beautiful. Malta's gorgeous. My first time here, and yeah, it's a good time
All
so
right.
far.
Reminds you a bit of California?
Definitely does, man. Yeah, it's definitely nice to be in the sun.
All right. You just had an interesting talk here in the expo, in the conference hall about Venezuela, digital currencies, and these emerging markets. Why this topic?
Because I really believe this is like the real purpose behind Bitcoin, or at least like the initial purpose behind Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. You know, it was to help fight against corruption of governments, overinflation, hyperinflation, things like that. It arose out of the banking crisis of 2007, 2008, and the huge economic crisis that was stirring there in the U.S. and really affected the globe. And I think it's very relevant to what's going on in Venezuela. There's people that are actually utilizing cryptocurrency for specific purposes there, whether it be currency as a currency payment form or a store of value, or whatever the method might be. There's people that are actually using it beyond just the speculation of trading and things like that.
Right, right. So actually, Bitcoin can be used of payments. It can be a currency for lots of people.
Yeah, I mean, especially people with that struggle in emerging economies such as Venezuela with hyperinflation and the volatility of their own currency. You know, a lot of people argue that Bitcoin is very volatile, but when you go to Venezuela and you realize that the price, the purchasing power of their currency is extremely volatile. One day it can purchase a little bit, and the next day it could purchase less or more, even within hours. It's been reported that even within a few hours, the price of a piece of chicken changes. So, I think it's really relevant to the discussions that we're having, and I think it's really important for us to be looking at these emerging economies, as difficult and as challenging as it might be to hear about these stories.
Yeah. Because in the Western world we have lots of ways to pay, and actually people don't see the necessity to actually use their digital currencies. So you get in this discussion: why is Bitcoin actually of any use to pay?
Exactly, and I don't think people really like. I don't think we can really comprehend. Like, I can't fully comprehend the way that these people are living and the experience that they're having in their own lives, because I don't live like that. I haven't been in that challenging of a situation. I think that's very similar for a lot of people. But I think it's important to have these discussions and to educate yourself around them, because everybody here is a leader in one way, shape, or form, whether they're creating content, whether they're creating a startup in the crypto space. We're all here because we're leaders and because we have some sort of influence and the ability to impact people. And I think it's important that we use that for the right purposes. And I think Venezuela is one of them.
All right. So actually Bitcoin, how do you see the evolvement of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies? We have the Lightning Network, second layer solutions. I mean, we're still in a very early phase, as a ways to pay, as a form of payment.
Agreed. I'm not 100% convinced that we'll be utilizing it as a form of payment. I think it can be utilized as one. But I don't know if I don't think it's necessarily going to replace fiat currency. It might be an addition to the ability to use fiat, and maybe in some cases, in some countries, in some economies, it does replace it completely. But I don't know. It's going to take time to see. You know, I don't think that scalability is going to be an issue. I think that Lightning Network will be the very first step to kind of solving those things with Bitcoin. I'm sure there will be more progression later on in the future from. And mind you, I don't know. I'm not a huge expert on these things, but I do think that there are very smart people who are innovating at these things and that are utilizing the majority of their brain power and their time and their energy to find solutions to these problems. So I have no doubt that all of that stuff all the issues will become irrelevant into the future, and we'll figure out some sort of solution.
All right. Do you actually follow, are you agnostic, or do you follow all projects, or are you more focused on Bitcoin or other protocol layers, or?
No, I'm not specifically tied to one project. I'm not specifically tied to Bitcoin. I'm interested in all of the innovations. I think that obviously Bitcoin is king, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of innovations going on with smart contracts, with Ethereum, and things like that. And while they may not have proven their value at a mass scale yet, I believe that the fact that people are innovating and trying new things is super important. It's super relevant. Without that, we wouldn't be anywhere. We wouldn't be able to be open and free and creative, and I think that's really really important. I'm interested. I'm interested in projects like Casper Labs, who are trying to build Ethereum, like essentially the Ethereum 2.0 that has full scalability. I'm interested in projects that are trying to take it to that next level, because I think that's part of what we need. Is obviously we need scalability, but and we also need a large user base to come on.
I mean, you're based in California. I mean, it's a tech hub, of course, Silicon Valley, other parts. Do you still need to explain what kind of industry you're active in, or?
Yeah, of course. I think education is the most important thing, right? I think there's a lot of there's a lack of education, but beyond the lack of education, there is misinformation right now. A lot of people who aren't highly educated believe Bitcoin's all just only about the pricing and things like that, which is fine. It's where we are right now, and it's created enough exposure for mainstream to at least be aware of it. But I think the next step is really getting people educated about why this technology is important.
All right, right. So do you see also in Silicon Valley, like tech companies? I mean, Facebook is stepping into the arena with their stable coin, their global coin, I must say. Do you expect Microsoft is building on Bitcoin network? So, I mean, tech companies seem to step in. Huh?
Yeah, they're stepping in. I think this is like the very first steps that we're going to see of real mass adoption. I think while Facebook isn't decentralized, it will bring a lot of awareness to what's going on with digital currencies. It may not be a cryptocurrency as in terms of decentralization, all the other factors that really play along with that, but it will be a digital currency which will create awareness around the fact that this is the future, in one way, shape, or form. And I think it's a stepping stone. I don't think that everybody is going to understand why we need Bitcoin or why we need full decentralization or any of these full immutability, any of these things. But Facebook will introduce this, which will bring it to a very large amount of people, and it validates the use case of digital currencies overall. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps they can help with user interfaces. I mean, perhaps they can help with these normal things, building nice apps or, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is Facebook has a huge user base, a huge audience, and they have a lot of eyes on them. So the fact that they're even announcing that they're thinking about the possibility of implementing it, and I believe that they're now actually going to implement it, it's not just a thought process anymore. The fact that they're doing that is just massive exposure for the entire industry as a whole. And once they actually do implement something like that and they do test it, we'll be able to see what works and what doesn't work on a massive scale for people who are lacking the education or lacking the understanding of why these things are important or what these things actually are. We'll see how to actually properly integrate the things that we are all building here onto a mass scale, onto a bigger scale. So I'm excited to see what happens, man. It should be cool.
All right. I mean, you're involved in many ways in this industry. You have your own podcast. Are you also advising projects, or are you directly investing in projects, or?
Both, man. Both. I'm advising a couple really good projects right now that I'm really excited about. Casper Labs is actually one of them.
Okay.
I'm really excited about what they're doing. And yeah, I'm investing as well. The majority of my investments are in Bitcoin, a couple other things. I'm not getting too speculative this round, but the markets are looking good. People are getting excited again. Energy's starting to flow, and I'm flowing with it.
What are your top 3 pickings in the market?
Right now, I'm messing obviously with Bitcoin. I've got some Ethereum, and then I've been heavy on Decred recently. I really like their the way that they have their voting mechanism set up, their consensus mechanism, and I like their funding model. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean they're known for their, how do you say, the great promise. I mean, they're still like this promising project, but they're making some progress, or.
Yeah, I mean, I know the head developer Marco. He's a really good guy, and for a while he was trying to tell me about it. I just was very busy, and we finally sat down for an interview, and I really like what they got going on. So I support whatever they're doing.
Yeah, what makes Casper Labs so interesting? I mean, some may explain it as an eternal battle between Vlad and Vitalik, but maybe it's like internal competition or a healthy competition. Or?
I think it's healthy competition, and even beyond that, I don't think there is much competition. I think they're working in collaboration with each other. You know, Vitalik has been very open that he doesn't know if Ethereum can fully scale. He doesn't know if it's going to evolve to that. And I think that really it's more of a collaboration to make sure that this technology can scale rather than which one will scale. I don't think that's really the conversation or the argument that's going on. I think it's like, how can we collaborate on a better level? How can we work together on a greater scale in order to really bring forth an ecosystem that thrives for all of us?
Right. A few more questions. I mean, you see that Wall Street is also stepping in. I mean, Fidelity Bucked is coming in July. What do you expect for the market actually? Will there be more a gradual growth or more, yeah?
I don't have any expectations really, but I do hope that it's more gradual. You know, if we keep spiking, then we're just going to see strong volatility, which is okay, but it's not necessarily healthy growth, and it doesn't really inspire confidence in investors that may be more traditional. You know, but if we see more steady growth, it should create more confidence in traditional investors. Should create more confidence in mainstream media and things like that.
Right. You see a lot of buzz going on around STOs and security tokens and tokenizing assets. And Mike Novogratz said, okay, that will be the second wave of innovation. Or, do you see this tokenizing as a important step or?
Very much so. I spent the last 3 or 4 months recording a whole series around security tokens for my podcast, and I think they're really, really interesting. I think there's massive potential there, and I do think like the security token industry will be huge. I think it'll be a major leader in what we're doing here for crypto and blockchain.
Right. Okay. I think we've maybe you have something to add or. Now's your chance.
No, man. Just check out my podcast, Evolvement.io, and hey, I appreciate you having me on, man.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thanks, sir.
All the best with all the things you do. So.